I have cancer, but my boyfriend doesn't know. He once gave up his dream university for me. And at the scene of a car accident, he left me injured and rushed anxiously to another woman. I died. On the day he and his secretary were setting off fireworks in London. The day I learned I had a tumor in my head, Liam proposed to me. My mind was reeling. For a moment, I suspected he knew everything. Before 30 seconds had passed, he stood up, put the ring box back in his pocket, and glanced at me indifferently. It was Mom and Dad's idea. If you don't agree, forget it. Relief washed over me. Of course. He always liked to play jokes on me. He probably thought this time I was using his parents to pressure him into marriage. Hence the stunt of proposing just to humiliate me. I silently lowered the hand I had extended and smiled at him. What if I agreed? Would you marry me? He met my gaze but didn't speak. The answer couldn't have been clearer. Honestly, it hurt. A lot. If you don't marry me now, you won't get the chance later, I said huffily, suppressing the heat behind my eyes. Liam was unfazed. He took off his jacket, placed it on the back of the sofa, a faint trace of sarcasm on his lips. Are you sure that day will ever come? He always had a knack for predicting things. And indeed, I wouldn't live to see that day. At night, I sat on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. Liam closed his laptop, shut his eyes for a moment to soothe their strain, then got up, lifted the covers, and climbed into bed. He habitually turned his back to me, leaving enough space between us for another pillow. You can't fake how you sleep. Even after 8 years together, he still couldn't get used to sleeping in the same bed with me. I'd always been shameless around him. Even if he didn't want me to, I'd wait until he was asleep, scoop closer, press myself against his back, and wrap my arms around his waist. Even our first time was something I had brazenly asked for. I was 20 then. I vaguely remember it rained heavily that day. Dense raindrops pattered against the windowpane, the air was cold and damp. I took off my little jacket and slowly walked towards him. And hugged him. He stood there, motionless. The waist beneath a man's white shirt was so thin, so lean. Unlike me, his body temperature was high. I was trembling all over with shame, thinking that if he rejected me, I might just die. I tilted my head up, trying hard to smile at him, but tears blurred my vision. How scared I was then, fearing words like shameless, desperate, or disgusting might come from his lips. I was just a young girl, after all, full of reckless courage but lacking the ability to face the consequences. He looked down at me coldly. As if he might push me away any second. My hands trembled as I unbuttoned his shirt, my legs shaking so badly I could barely stand. What are you doing? He asked. I stammered, unable to speak. He leaned down and kissed me, the bitter taste mixed with tears. You don't even know how to seduce someone. Clumsy. I caught the faint scent of alcohol. His girlfriend had just left him for someone else, he was in a bad mood. I took advantage of his vulnerability, and from then on, he was stuck with me, like gum on his shoe. In the pitch darkness, I stared at the faint outline of the ceiling light fixture. Maybe when you're dying, your perspective shifts, becomes calmer. The person I'd wasted my youth chasing, the relationship I'd agonized over, none of it seemed as important now as seeing tomorrow's sunrise. When I woke the next day, the morning light streamed through the window onto my face, leaving me slightly disoriented. The doctor said the tumor might be pressing on my optic nerve. It took a moment for my vision to focus now. Liam was leaning against the headboard, reading a financial magazine. Usually, on weekends when we slept in together, I'd cling to him like an octopus, at least one hand or foot always resting on him. It was an unconscious reaction. Liam looked down. Awake? I smiled at him. Good morning. He glanced at my shoulder, his expression unreadable. You slept quite peacefully last night. I kept smiling. He suddenly frowned slightly. What nonsense were you muttering in your sleep just now? I touched my face. It was wet. Had I been crying? Worried he'd press further, I sat up halfway and looked at him seriously. I dreamt I was in Alaska, saw the snow and the northern lights. I really want to go. Can we? I looked at him pleadingly, with a hint of begging. Liam ignored me. No time. I opened my mouth, then slowly smiled. All right then. Perhaps my reaction was too calm, because he turned his head and eyed me for a moment before saying coolly, maybe next March. We can't spare the time this year. I nodded. There should still be time. Actually, I dreamt of the 12-year-old Liam. He wasn't always like this. He used to be such a good older brother figure. I was always a picky eater, disliked this and that, but was afraid of being scolded by the adults. He would eat my leftovers without any sign of disgust. Unlike now, where he won't even touch a glass I've drunk from. When I was bullied at school, hair pulled, homework scribbled on, he was always the first to stand up for me, beat up those annoying boys, explain things to the teacher for me, give me his new notebook. I was very introverted as a child, and from a single-parent home. Without his protection, I probably would have been bullied horribly. Later, my mom died. I cried so hard I nearly passed out. I said, "Nobody wants me anymore." He said, "That's not true. Someone wants you." I repeated it, and he repeated his answer. I sat on the floor crying all night. He endured a toothache to comfort me all night. The next day, his whole cheek was swollen. And then, later, I told him I liked him, took off my clothes, and threw myself at him. His face was cold. He called me shameless. Monday morning, Liam left his backup phone at home. I rushed to his office to give it to him. On the way, someone called the phone. I glanced at the caller ID, Chloe, love. How intimate. In all these years, he only ever called me by my full name. Ava, Ava. When my mom named me, she probably wished for me to be safe and sound. It's a pity I got brain cancer before 30, failing her hopes. Come to think of it, my family probably has a genetic predisposition to tumors. My mom, my aunt, and my great-grandmother all died of cancer, and they were all young when they passed. When I got to the company, Chloe stopped me, distant yet polite. "Mr. Hayes is in a meeting. Please wait a moment." Chloe was his classmate in college. After graduation, she became his secretary. She handles all of Liam's affairs, big and small. The time they spend together each day is much longer than the time Liam and I spend together. What bothers me is that they dated in college. Although it wasn't for long, it's always been a thorn in my side. In our shared social circle, everyone thinks I'm willful and possessive around him, guarding him like food, not allowing any woman near him. But I didn't even dare suggest firing Chloe. I still vividly remember how unwillingly he broke up with Chloe. Back then, Liam was incredibly downcast. He looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before, cold and distant. "Is using my parents to pressure me the only thing you know how to do?" His voice was hoarse. I even thought I saw tears in his eyes. Did he like her that much? That time, I stood stunned for a long while. He was usually reserved. I'd never seen him care so much about someone. In the past, I might have sulked, waited until the meeting ended for Liam to come out, then deliberately put on a show of affection in front of Chloe. But this time, I handed the backup phone to Chloe, asking her to give it back to Liam after the meeting. With a slight nod to her, I turned and left. There was a hint of surprise on Chloe's face. After retiring, Liam's parents moved back to their quiet old house. I visit them every month, but Liam is reluctant. "My parents have always liked you more than me," he said casually, reading a contract. "You can just go by yourself. My mother was unmarried and pregnant. I don't know who my father is." Liam's mother and my mother were best friends. After my mom died, they raised me. I am very grateful to them and have always tried my best to be well behaved. You could even say I try to please them. Pleasing Aunt Sarah, pleasing Uncle Mike, pleasing Liam. Liam's difficult relationship with his parents is largely due to me. He doesn't know that, ultimately, I'm the one living under someone else's roof. Back then, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes didn't approve of him dating Chloe because they found out she was being kept by someone at the time. Photographic evidence was laid out in front of Liam, but he didn't care. Chloe had her reasons. He said. So Aunt Sarah, frustrated, pointed at me. "Instead of letting you find some lowlife outside, you might as well be with Ava. At least she's a decent, innocent girl." Liam smiled faintly. "If you like her so much, you marry her." Pulling myself from the memory, I coaxed him, "They'll be happier if we go together." Liam's tone didn't change. "As long as you all are happy." I gave in. After watching him for a moment, I stood up and grabbed my bag. "There's food in the kitchen. Remember to eat." He didn't look up. "Okay. Be safe on the road." The drive to the old house took 3 hours. I have a sweet tongue. A few words had the elderly couple laughing heartily. I helped Aunt Sarah loosen the soil, apply fertilizer, plant radish seeds, and set up trellises for the pea shoots. Sweating profusely, I unknowingly fell asleep at the stone table in the vegetable garden. When I woke up, it was dusk. Uncle Mike's jacket was draped over me, and I had several mosquito bites on my arm. The sunset was fiery red, radiating warmth. After dinner, it was time to leave. Aunt Sarah asked me to take good care of Liam. I said okay. Uncle Mike said, "You need to take care of yourself too. You look a bit worn out." Sometimes tears are triggered by such a casual remark of concern. Fighting back the stinging in my nose, I smiled. I won't stay up late next time. On the way back, I realized I probably couldn't drive alone anymore. The headaches were becoming more frequent. Ethan is my attending physician. He suggested I be hospitalized for treatment. Later on, the headaches might become more frequent, and some patients develop persistent seizures. I shook my head. If it gets to that point, I'll probably have already killed myself. You know I can't stand suffering. He frowned at me for a moment, then finally sighed. I didn't dare drive, so he drove me home. In the car, Ethan glanced at me in the rearview mirror. He still doesn't know? He, obviously, referred to Liam. I murmured assent. Haven't figured out how to tell him yet. He paused for a moment. I can't imagine his reaction. I laughed out loud. He'll probably be relieved his second half of life is free. The biggest regret of Liam's life was probably touching me that sophomore year. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been pressured by me, by his parents, to take responsibility for me. Ethan glanced at me, shaking his head. Back then, I lied to him that you agreed to be with me after getting drunk. Coincidentally, I had your clothes from the night before draped over my arm. He misunderstood something happened between us and was furious. I said he was angry because his parents forced him to break up with Chloe. Ethan clicked his tongue. Whatever you say. The sky gradually darkened. As we passed the sports plaza, a group of energetic young people were sweating it out on the basketball court. My eyes glazed over for a moment. Stop for a second, I told Ethan. I don't want to go back yet. Don't you play basketball? I want to watch. Me? Ethan hesitated. I play ping pong, sure. Haven't touched a basketball in years. Under my persistent coaxing, Ethan rolled up his sleeves and reluctantly joined the game. He had long arms and legs. Apart from being a bit rusty at first, he didn't hold the team back. A beautiful three-pointer. I couldn't help but scream. Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked back at me proudly. Not far away, I saw a familiar figure. He was wearing a dress shirt and slacks, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, looking impassively at the basketball court. I knew, on the outer side of his arm, there was a long, jagged scar. He got that during the car accident, saving me. 20 centimeters long, a fracture, steel pins inserted. After that, due to nerve damage causing impaired finger mobility, he could no longer play baseball or basketball, sports he used to love. He couldn't even hold a glass of water steady. That hand had once shielded me from a deadly piece of debris that smashed through the windshield. I felt guilty about it for a long time. The game ended. Ethan high-fived his teammates and walked towards me, drenched in sweat. I handed him his jacket. Let's go. He pouted. We won. Not even a sip of water? Only the one I drank from. He reached out. Give it here. Liam had left sometime earlier. I felt awkward. Come on, I'll buy you water. When I got home, Liam had already showered and was lying in bed in his pajamas. I showered, got into bed, and he turned off the light. We didn't speak the entire night. The next day, an extra person suddenly appeared for our scheduled weekend date. The company's planning an amusement park project. I brought Chloe along to check out the site, Liam explained coolly. I didn't say anything. We walked for a while. Chloe seemed to have a cold, coughing incessantly. Liam frowned. Why didn't you say you were sick? Chloe smiled. Had a cold for a few days. Thought I'd be fine after taking medicine, but the wind made it worse. Liam took off his jacket and handed it to her. Chloe wrapped the jacket tightly around herself. Thanks for your concern, boss. It was overcast, windy, with no sign of letting up. The wind stung my cheeks. Liam found a coffee shop, but it was packed at lunchtime, with only a table near the door available. He let her sit against the wall, sheltered from the wind. Maybe it was the cold draft, but my head started to throb again. I broke out in a cold sweat, my legs weakened, and I instinctively grabbed Liam's arm. He looked down at me. Are you sick too? His tone held no concern. More like a hint of amusement. I struggled to stand steady and released his arm. Didn't eat much breakfast. A bit of low blood sugar. He said nothing. I said, I'm going to the restroom. He nodded. I turned around, took a deep breath. The headache made it almost impossible to think clearly. Something warm trickled from my nose. A few customers walking towards me looked startled. My nose was bleeding. I quickly covered my nose and mouth, lowered my head, and hurried to the restroom. Locking the stall door, I called Ethan to ask what to do. The phone rang for a long time unanswered. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I bent over the toilet, vomiting violently. The stomach acid burned my throat. After throwing up, my head actually hurt less. I leaned against the wall, catching my breath for a while. I splashed cold water on my forehead, washed my face, and left through the coffee shop side door. When I returned, I saw Chloe coughing quite badly. Liam was gently patting her back. My eyes suddenly stung. Probably jealousy. I walked over and placed the Ambroxol and cough syrup in front of her. Asked at the pharmacy. They said this might help with the cough. Chloe accepted them, somewhat surprised. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Liam's gaze remained fixed on her, not sparing me even a glance. You don't look too well either? Unexpectedly, it was Chloe who noticed something was wrong with me. Only then did Liam's gaze shift to me, slightly scrutinizing. I forced a smile. My stomach's a bit upset. He said flatly, let's finish our pastries and head back early. I nodded. In the car, Ethan called me back. Sorry, just got chewed out by the department head, didn't have my phone. What's wrong? Is everything okay? I glanced at Liam in the driver's seat and said softly, just my stomach felt weird, wanted to ask what medicine to take. It's fine now, all better. Ethan was silent for half a second. We'll talk when you get back then. I couldn't help but smile faintly. He was always so sharp. Liam turned to Chloe. Let me take you to the hospital, get in 4 drip. Chloe hesitated, then agreed. Liam looked at me through the rearview mirror. What about you? Need to go get checked out? I shook my head. Just drop me off here. I'll grab a cab home. He showed no reaction. Suit yourself. I looked out the car window at the passing scenery. Sometimes, I couldn't help but wonder, if Liam knew I was dying, would he regret treating me like this? But then I'd realize, what does it have to do with him? I'm the one keeping it from him. A few minutes later, Liam dropped me off at the intersection. Chloe looked at me apologetically. The car quickly drove away. I stood there for a moment, then hailed a cab. I didn't go home. I went to a convenience store, bought a 6-pack of beer, and went down to the riverside to drink with the wind. I wasn't trying to torture myself, I only drank half a can, holding the rest in my hand. Because I was cold, I also bought a shawl from a roadside clothing store. Ethan had asked me why I didn't tell my family I was sick. Before my mom died, I was the one who took care of her. Her appearance at the end, gaunt, veins collapsed, impossible to even insert a needle, became my deepest impression of her. Whenever I recall it, it feels like a dark cloud hanging over my heart. In the middle of the night, the desperate, bleak feeling of a loved one tormented by illness haunts my dreams. My death doesn't have to be like that. Rather than have them accompany me through futile treatments, witnessing me gradually weaken and become unsightly, it's better they remember me healthy and beautiful. Afterward, Ethan can tell them I died with dignity, that medical care is advanced now, and I didn't suffer much. I stayed alone for a long time, hugging my knees, dozing off for a bit. Before I knew it, the sky was almost dark. I checked my phone, many missed calls. I randomly chose one and called back. Liam's voice was irate, as if he wanted to devour me. I called you so many times. Why didn't you answer? It took me a moment to register. Intuitively, I felt I'd disrupted something. What's wrong? Is something up? He was silent for a long moment, his breathing heavy, like he was struggling to control his emotions. Where are you? I looked around. Riverside Pier. He said, stay right there. I'm coming to get you. I wrapped the shawl tighter and waited obediently where I was. Liam arrived faster than I expected. After parking the car, he strode over to me, his eyes quickly scanning me for something. Realizing I wasn't in any trouble, he calmed down. What are you doing here? He asked. Just as I was about to answer, I sneezed. His face darkened. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. I didn't really want it, after all, this jacket had been draped over Chloe's shoulders at noon. Faintly, I could still smell Chloe's perfume on it. I trailed behind him and secretly took the jacket off. Liam opened the car door, then suddenly turned to look at me, frowning. What? I whispered, Chloe wore it. If she wore it, I didn't want it. Call me petty. I'm dying soon anyway, why do I need to be so understanding? Who said that? He grabbed the jacket and wrapped it around me again, but his frown softened. Even if she wore it, you have to wear it. Isn't your health bad enough already? In the car, he turned on the heat. I said, it's hot. He said, serves you right. After that car accident, Liam became a very cautious driver. It took him over 10 minutes to drive the 3 miles home. As we entered the house, he suddenly grabbed my hand, leaned down, and smelled the alcohol on me. How much did you drink? 1 can. He clearly didn't believe me. I wanted to explain, but as soon as I opened my mouth, I sneezed several times in a row. He placed his palm on my forehead to check my temperature. Do you have a fever? Maybe the sneezes were too violent, because something started flowing from my nose again. Liam frowned. What's wrong with you? I shook my head, covering my nose with my hand. Maybe just stress. Blood gushed out like water from a leaky faucet. Liam's expression changed drastically. He told me to tilt my head back and pinch my nose tightly, then went into the bedroom to find cotton balls to stuff into my nostrils. He watched me intently, his movements careful and precise. The nosebleed gradually stopped. My face and neck were sticky with blood. Liam brought a hot towel and wiped me clean. When he wiped near my chest, his hand paused slightly. I tugged at his sleeve, there was a small spot of blood there. It got on you. He dismissed it, staring at my face, his brow furrowing again. A sneeze gives you a nosebleed? Are you made of glass? I nodded, readily admitting, I'm just fragile. I was telling the truth. He looked me over. Have you lost weight? He still remembered my weight. Liam went to the kitchen and cooked a fragrant bowl of noodles. Then he watched me eat the entire bowl. I hadn't been this full in a long time. My stomach bulged, I felt too full to move. He brought my pajamas, knelt down to help me change my shoes. When he looked down, his bangs covered his eyes, making him seem patient and gentle. For a moment, I thought we were back in the past. Back then, I was malnourished from picky eating. He refused to indulge me anymore and painstakingly corrected my eating habits. Actually, there were many things I wanted to ask him. Why did he stay at our lower-tier state university when he did so well on his exams and could have gone to a top-5 school? He said it was because it was far from home, so he wouldn't be bothered by family. Was that the real reason? Or was he afraid I'd be bullied if I went to college out of state alone? But ultimately, I didn't ask. Liam received a call. He stood up, walked aside, his tone and expression very gentle. Yeah, I found her. Some things are predestined. If he hadn't come to our university, he wouldn't have met Chloe. Although Chloe eventually gave in to pressure and got together with another guy, after all these years, those two still understand each other's hearts. Liam, I don't have much time left. Just get through this last stretch with me, and then you'll be free. My birthday is in another month. Lately, I've clearly felt my body weakening. The dosage of painkillers is increasing, yet the pain is getting worse. Ethan also told me my prognosis isn't optimistic. I followed Liam closely, repeatedly nagging him, take me to see the Northern Lights, please? Didn't we agree on next year? I can't wait. Do you know what the Northern Lights symbolize? They represent luck. Those who see them will find lifelong happiness. Liam grew impatient with my persistence. Fine. Really? He nodded. My eyes lit up instantly. I hugged his neck tightly and gave him a peck on the nose. Liam froze for a second, his muscles tensing, but he didn't push me away. Our relationship had eased considerably. The most direct sign was that Liam became more intense. Although our frequency wasn't low before, he'd clearly been putting in more effort recently. Putting that aside, I still cherished this time. If only there weren't those tangled relationships. He was, at least, a competent older brother figure. Life is always full of surprises. After enduring for so long, my birthday was finally approaching. That day, I went out to buy some things needed for the trip abroad, but on the way, a headache struck, and I was hit by an electric scooter. I curled up on the ground, pale-faced. The rider was terrified and wanted to call an ambulance, but I stopped him and dialed Ethan's number. He should be off today. Ethan arrived quickly. He lifted me, convulsing in pain, from the ground, put me in his car, and gave me a sedative. I slowly recovered, even finding the energy to joke with him, when I die, I'll definitely leave half my inheritance to you. You're more competent than my boyfriend. He spared a moment from his busyness to glare at me. Who wants your inheritance? Then what do you want? I don't have much to offer. He thought for a moment. Make me a meal. Honestly, I initially pursued you because your cooking is amazing. Oh. I'd been cooking for Liam for years, and he never fell in love with me. We went to the market to buy groceries. Filled with gratitude, I prepared to showcase my skills. Ethan was initially leaning leisurely against the kitchen doorway watching me, but I called him in to help. Halfway through cooking, Liam called me. What happened? Someone at the company said they saw you get hit on the road today? I paused, surprised he knew. A minor accident, nothing serious. He took a deep breath. Where are you now? Ethan handed me the prepared shrimp, deveined and heads removed. If I knew it was this much trouble, I would have just bought shrimp meat. Liam heard his voice and fell silent. I had no choice but to say, Ethan helped me out. I'm at his place making dinner for him. Sounds like you're fine then, he said curtly and hung up. Ethan and I exchanged glances. He shrugged. At night, Liam came home very late. I bounced happily over to him, handing him the warmed milk. What date are we going to Alaska? I need to book the tickets. Liam looked up at me. He didn't take the milk, nor did he speak. In the silence, I seemed to sense what was coming. Sure enough, he lowered his eyes. Sorry, there's a difficult project in London that our company has taken on. I have to be there personally. From start to finish, it will take at least 6 months. I unconsciously gripped the mug tighter. In the past, of course, I would have understood. Work comes first, career takes precedence. I understood that principle. I could be willful. But when it came to important matters, I never interfered with him. Can't it be postponed a little? Even if we go to Alaska, we won't stay long, I said, somewhat dazed even with a hint of pleading. Perhaps surprised by my insistence, he glanced at me. We'll go next year. You can stay as long as you want. After a long pause, I murmured, But, there would be no next chance. Perhaps feeling a bit guilty, in bed, as I lay with my back to him, Liam pulled me close from behind, showering soft kisses on my neck and shoulder. I didn't respond. He didn't get angry, just continued kissing me slowly, even kissing each finger, starting with ticklishness, then gradually becoming more fierce. 5 months apart. It felt like he was trying to make up for it all in advance. The next morning, he packed a small bag. Chloe drove the car up to the yard. Liam said goodbye to me. I'll try to come back for visits. Finished speaking, he prepared to leave. I said, aren't you going to hug me? He hesitated for half a second, leaning towards me. Chloe leaned out of the car window. Boss, time to go. Liam's movement paused. Right, he always kept a distance from me in front of others. He looked at me. Wait for me to come back. Then he turned and walked towards Chloe. I habitually started counting. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 10 steps. He didn't look back. In the past, I always hoped he would turn back to look at me, even just a glance, to show he was reluctant to leave. Unfortunately, this time was no exception. I slept for a long time. When I woke up again, it was already early morning. The night was cool as water, the entire city was silent. Liam sent me a message saying he'd arrived safely in London. I didn't reply. I couldn't fall back asleep. I sat on the bed, hugging my knees. Actually, it was all right. I didn't want him to know about my illness anyway. With him abroad, he wouldn't know I had died. In a daze, I remembered many things from the past. When I was little, I wasn't healthy, prone to allergies, and had rhinitis that couldn't tolerate dust. So when it was my turn for cleaning duty, he would come to our classroom and sweep the floor and wipe the blackboard for me. When I fell on the snow in winter, it was him who put his gloves on my hands and carried me home on his back. When I had a cold and a sore throat and couldn't eat, and there were no adults at home, he cooked porridge, cooled it down, and fed it to me spoonful by spoonful. And that car accident, if he hadn't shielded me, I probably would have died. Every time he treated me badly, it would cancel out some of the good things he'd done before. Day by day, year by year, things were cancelled out and then accumulated again. I still liked him very much. Because some memories took many bad ones to erase. And many of the good things he did for me couldn't be erased. Barefoot, I entered Liam's study. He rarely allowed me in. In a dusty corner of the bookshelf, I found a sketchbook. Right, Liam used to love drawing. Besides various sketches, I flipped to a sentence. I know Ava is pitiful without a mom, but I don't like her. The handwriting was a bit childish. Liam wrote it when he was young. I hesitated for a moment. And continued flipping. After she came to live with us, Mom and Dad only had eyes for her. In the car, because she gets carsick, Mom always held her. They only cook the food she likes, because she doesn't like the things I like. I got sick, and no one even noticed. My chest tightened. So after I appeared, Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike had neglected him so much. He was just a child back then too. Having his parents' attention and love stolen by an unrelated person who appeared out of nowhere, why should he have been generous? The later entries became more frequent. She found a little kitten caught in the rain. It didn't survive. She cried, sobbing uncontrollably. I hugged her, and she immediately clung to me. Tears and snot all over me, so messy. Mom and Dad forgot my birthday, but she didn't. She even ran around telling the whole class, getting the teacher and everyone to sing happy birthday to me. I didn't look up the entire time. So embarrassing. I told her not to call me brother. She doesn't listen. I'm not her brother. Does being her brother mean I have to give in to her all the time? That's what mom and dad say. Does she call every guy brother? The sketchbook was mostly drawings, he only wrote something down for important events. Today I heard her talking to the kitten's grave. If I don't try to please him, I'm afraid Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike will send me away. In that moment, I think I felt pretty sad. My eyes started to sting. When I was little, I really hoped Aunt Sarah, Uncle Mike, him, and I could be a family. My feelings for Liam were mixed with this obsession. I desperately wanted a home. But that doesn't mean I didn't truly love him. Liam rarely kept a diary after becoming an adult. Flipping to the last page, there was only one sentence: she seemed to think I was drunk. Idiot, a man can't perform when he's drunk. The page was old and stuck together. I peeled back the second to last page, and there was another entry: Chloe is quite similar to me. I find many similarities in her, even the flaws in our souls are the same. Maybe she could be my girlfriend. I froze for a moment. So in the end, he realized Chloe was his soulmate. It turns out, my memory of childhood was different from his. It turns out, I had hindered him so much. I picked up a pen and wrote a few words on the back cover of the sketchbook: I'm sorry. The headache struck again. When it hit, my whole body ached. Are the painkillers useless now? I looked at myself in the mirror. Honestly, not a pretty sight. The baby fat was completely gone now. Liam didn't like the little sister type, maybe he'd like me this way. You could mistake me for his old aunt. Trembling uncontrollably from the pain, my consciousness blurring, I couldn't help but want to call Liam. My fingers hovered over his number. Ultimately, I didn't press it. I'm a very selfish person, full of dark little thoughts. I knew perfectly well Liam didn't like me, yet I still forced him to be with me, using responsibility to blackmail him. This time, just let it go. On my birthday, Liam called me many times. I watched the phone screen light up, then go dark. Finally, I answered. Why did it take you so long to answer? His voice sounded noisy on his end. I fell asleep, I said softly. Did you eat cake? He asked. I nodded. Yes. Did mom and dad celebrate with you? How could I dare let Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike see me like this? So I lied to them, told them I went traveling, wanted to see another side of the world, and would be back after a long time. No, I said, smiling. Celebrated with friends. He was silent for a second. Ethan? He was indeed the closest friend I'd kept in touch with over the years. Yeah, he bought the cake. Annoyingly, he got the age wrong by a year. Then tried to tell me since I was born later in the year, it rounds up. He's so annoying. In reality, I hadn't seen him in quite a while. Liam just said, Lately, my stomach hurts all the time, and my heart hurts too, hurts so much I roll on the floor. I tried to whine playfully, but my voice was a bit hoarse, so the effect wasn't great. Can you come back soon? I want to see you. Have you heard the story of the boy who cried wolf? Once, Liam was going on a business trip with Chloe. I wanted to go too. Liam refused. So I threatened suicide, texting him the night before they left that if he didn't take me, I wouldn't live. I was just saying it out of anger, didn't expect him to actually believe me. Liam rushed over frantically. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding an unsharpened butter knife against my wrist. His initially anxious expression immediately turned cold. After that, whenever I complained about not feeling well, Liam would get very impatient. The more I asked him to come back quickly, the less likely he was to return. I knew this well. Sure enough, the voice on the other end coldly threw out a wait until the work is done and hung up. Well, making him like me wasn't easy. I hadn't succeeded in 20 years. But making him dislike me? I knew exactly how to do that. Maybe then, when he heard the news of my death, he would grieve a little less. If he would grieve for me at all. A month later, I was listening to music in a quiet bar. At the next table were several of Liam's friends, men and women. I was wearing a baseball cap pulled down low, dressed all in black, huddled in a corner, so they didn't recognize me. I heard my name in their gossip. Turns out Liam wanted to break up with me. He said it had dragged on too long, they were both tired, both sick of it. I thought about it for a while, then started packing up things at home. Clothes, shoes, toothbrush, mug, and some of those so-called tacky decorations I had insisted on bringing in, big and small, everything that belonged to me. I gathered it all up. This way, when his new girlfriend moved in, she wouldn't argue with him because she saw things I'd left behind. I packed up these miscellaneous items, dragged most of them to the dumpster, and sold some second-hand. Among them was our old wedding photo. We took it for fun during a family trip abroad. Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike have a copy too. I used to treasure it, hung it in the most prominent place in the house. But this couldn't be sold secondhand, so I had to throw it away. Before leaving, I took one last look at the house. Okay. Not a trace of me left. Oh, wait. I left a large brown teddy bear on the living room sofa. I bought it originally because I thought it looked a lot like Liam. I pinned a note to it. The bear is for Chloe. How much did Liam like Chloe? That time, the three of us were in the car. I was driving, Liam was in the passenger seat. Chloe sat behind me. When we were hit by that out-of-control truck, Liam shielded me from the flying debris, but the deformed car body trapped me firmly, both legs pinned under the steering wheel, shattered glass cutting into my thigh, blood pouring out. Maybe it was my body's self-preservation mechanism. At that moment, I felt numb, didn't even feel the pain. From behind came Chloe's pained groans. Liam, despite his fractured arm, got out of the car, opened her door, and carried her out. Only after that did he have the capacity to attend to me. When did Liam come back? Why didn't anyone tell me? Seeing him get out of a taxi at the community gate, my face turned deathly pale, flustered and unsure what to do. My only thought was, I couldn't let him see me like this. Perhaps sensing my gaze, he seemed to feel something and turned his head in my direction. I spun around and quickened my pace, somewhat desperately. I had rented a small apartment nearby. Once inside, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Liam's call came through. He must have gotten home and found me gone. I composed myself and answered, "Hello?" Liam's slightly cold voice came through. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. He asked again, with a hint of pressure, "Where are you?" My mind was a mess. I randomly made up an excuse. I went traveling. He gave a cold laugh. "Traveling requires moving all your stuff out? I thought the house was robbed. What's your game?" I wanted to move out on my own. He took a quiet breath. When he spoke again, the displeasure in his voice practically spilled out of the phone. "I'll ask you one more time, where are you?" I thought for a moment, gripped the phone tightly, and said, "Let's break up." The other end fell silent. I hung up the phone. 2 nights later, I secretly went back to the old house. The teddy bear I had left behind was thrown out in the yard. Drenched by the rain, dirty. With his temper, being treated like this by me, he definitely couldn't stand it. I patted the bear's ear and took it with me. Carrying it was difficult, and also comical. Stuffing it into the back seat of the taxi also took some effort. I still had a selfish wish that he and Chloe might occasionally think of me in the future. But I also hoped he wouldn't make a big deal out of me. You know, if I died, Liam wouldn't get to eat my cooking, wouldn't hear my voice, wouldn't have me buzzing around annoying him every day. Would he miss me? I lost a lot of weight. I felt I wasn't far from the most undignified state Ethan had described. Assisted suicide isn't legal here. I felt quite frustrated, and didn't want to go to Switzerland, a place I didn't know. In my current physical condition, I couldn't endure such a strenuous journey either. Ethan said if I wanted to go, he could take me. When he said that, there was pity in his eyes. I tilted my head to look at him. Wouldn't that be too cruel for you? Personally sending me off, he'd surely have nightmares afterward. After much thought, I decided to jump into the sea. Rivers, lakes, seas, Liam disliked the sea specifically. He liked winding streams, wide rivers, serene lakes, but not the mysterious vastness of the ocean. He's just a very boring person. That's fine too. I'll die in a place he dislikes, it saves him trouble. Lest he think of me later and spoil the scenery. Although Ethan didn't want it, I still left half of my inheritance to him in my will. As both a friend and a doctor, he was too considerate, and I had little to offer in return. Truth be told, I didn't have much money. I originally wanted to record a video for Aunt Sarah and Uncle Mike, but thinking about my current appearance, I decided against it and just wrote a thank you letter. Since I was little, I always wanted to call them Mom and Dad, so I did in the letter. I hope they don't mind. The sea wind gusted, whistling sharply in my ears. On my social media feed, I saw the picture Liam posted. He and Chloe were watching fireworks. I remember Chloe saying her favorite childhood memory was fireworks, carrying the most innocent and beautiful wishes. Fireworks of various shapes bloomed in the night sky, brilliant and colorful, exploding into dazzling starlight, then falling like a meteor shower. Just like life at its most vibrant. I placed my phone on a rock and leaped into the seawater. Epilogue, Ethan. When I informed Liam of Ava's death, he frowned slightly, disbelieving. "Don't make jokes like that. Mr. Hayes, I'm not joking. I handed him Ava's letters. These are for your parents. Please pass them on. He didn't take them, didn't even glance down. What is she trying to pull now? I chuckled inwardly. Mr. Hayes, Ava's body has been recovered by the police. You can go to the morgue to identify if it's her. After saying that, I turned and left. I didn't look at his expression. 7 days after Ava died, Liam returned from abroad. His parents, unable to contact Ava, had reported her missing. The police tracked me down through clues, and I told them what had happened. At the same time, I received Ava's scheduled email. She told me she was gone, not to miss her too much, gave me the code to her rental apartment, and asked me to pass the letters to her aunt and uncle. She said she wrote a detailed cookbook for me, so if I missed her cooking, I could learn to make it myself. There were jars of pickled peppers and kimchi she made in the fridge, enough to last me a long time. Her long silence had already given me a premonition. She died on such an ordinary day. Without telling anyone, including me. I went to med school near her university because their cafeteria's egg and bean sprout fried noodles were delicious. I'd go there every noon, sit alone, and slowly eat my portion. I've always been a picky eater. Over time, she noticed, always glancing my way. Later, her bike broke down. I happened to pass by and fixed it for her. That's how we met. She probably thought my family was poor, so poor I only ate one meal a day, just that one serving of fried noodles. So every time, she'd deliberately order 2 meat dishes, pretend she couldn't finish, and ask me to help her out. I enjoyed watching her performance, played along for a long time. Until she started showing up to our weekly meetups with huge bags of fruits, snacks, and daily necessities, claiming her dorm mates were trying to lose weight and asked me to help eat them. I couldn't take it anymore. I deliberately wore designer clothes and carried a Prada triangle bag to meet her. Girls should recognize this brand, right? She looked me over quite seriously, surprised, pointed at my bag. This looks like that, what's it called? Her expression changed slightly, probably thinking it was a fake, but not wanting to hurt my pride, she forced herself to praise it. It looks nice. I wanted to laugh even more. She always did things like this. Even after death, leaving half her inheritance to me. Seeing the string of numbers transferred to my bank account, I couldn't help but laugh. Laughing, I collapsed onto the floor, covering my tear-filled eyes. Liam must have gone to the morgue to identify her. When he came out, his fists were clenched tightly, his expression dazed. I'm a doctor. I know what a body looks like after being submerged in water. It would probably haunt him for the rest of his life. The police handed him the phone they found on the rock. It still had some battery left. The lock screen password was easy to guess, the date the cat she had as a child died. Just like many of her passwords were her mother's birthday. This girl, her loyalty was baffling. Probably because her mother died young. She told me to cherish every family member. That little cat was her family. She also said I was her family. Silly girl. When the screen lit up, Liam's social media feed appeared. He and Chloe watching fireworks in London, a picture full of romance and beauty. That was the last thing she saw before she died. What must she have been feeling then? Liam's face turned deathly white. A few days later, Liam suddenly sought me out. He asked me when she found out she was sick. I said, the day you proposed to her. Liam's eyelids fluttered. The day I proposed? Yes. I leaned back in my chair, studying him intently. But what did you say again? That you didn't actually want to marry her, it was just your parents' request. He seemed to understand something, his eyes instantly reddening. No wonder. No wonder what? I scoffed. No wonder she was so upset then? It was clear his mental state wasn't good lately. He had lost a lot of weight, his voice choked slightly, almost pleading, as if desperately wanting to hear a denial. Her last days, was she in pain? I maintained my usual smile. Mr. Hayes, she had brain cancer. Late-stage brain cancer patients experience severe headaches, dizziness, frequent nausea, and vomiting. Sometimes her vision would blur, she often fell when living alone. After the cancer metastasized, she couldn't even describe the specific location of the pain because her whole body hurt. She couldn't bear it, that's why she chose suicide. She asked me to tell you all that she didn't suffer much when she passed. I looked at him maliciously. But I couldn't bear for you to remain in the dark. Liam, what were you doing then? Watching fireworks with Chloe? Oh, by the way, that one time the 3 of you went out together, she had a headache attack in a shop, got a nosebleed in public, so she hid in the restroom until she felt better before coming out to see you, I said. She called me then, but I didn't answer either. Liam abruptly looked up at me, his eyes filled with disbelief. I smiled faintly. But compared to her, you were clearly more worried about Ms. Clark's cold. Liam's face turned ashen. He remained stunned for a long time. A nurse knocked gently on the door. Dr. Chen, a patient's family is looking for you. I walked past him and went out. Liam's parents stood outside the door. Mrs. Hayes had cried so much her eyes were red and swollen, she needed Mr. Hayes' support just to stand. You were Ava's doctor, and her friend. Can you tell us, did Ava really have cancer? Mrs. Hayes reached out to me, her voice trembling. Why didn't she tell us anything? I quickly steadied her arm. Aunt Sarah, my condolences. Then in her last days, she had no one with her, no one cared, just alone, enduring it all. How sad she must have been, Mrs. Hayes said, tears streaming down again. I recited the prepared words. Aunt Sarah, please don't be too sad. Medical treatments are very advanced now. Ava didn't suffer much. She just didn't want her last days spent relying on medication and machines, so she chose the sea. She loved the sea, it was a release for her. She didn't want to see you grieve for her, that's why she didn't tell you. Mr. Hayes stared blankly, his eyes red, choking out, is that true? I nodded. She said she wanted to remain in your memories as the beautiful, healthy girl she was. Mrs. Hayes murmured, even at the end, she was thinking about my high blood pressure, telling me to take my medicine on time, get regular checkups, said she'd make her Uncle Mike watch me to make sure I didn't drink. Even on the day she died, my Ava called to check on me. She collapsed onto a chair in the hospital corridor, covering her face and sobbing. I didn't hear anything wrong in her voice at all. Liam stood nearby. He knew the truth, which made the pain even more unbearable. Just like me. Epilogue, Liam. The first month after Ava died. Sometimes I would forget the reality. Waking up in the familiar bed, I'd instinctively turn my head to the pillow beside me, wanting to push her foot off me. But my hand would grasp empty air. The space beside me was empty too. She was gone. She wouldn't be here anymore. I remained stunned for a long time, suddenly remembering that in her final days, she rarely clung to me like that anymore. A week later, I gradually regained my senses. I gave up the project in London. Mom and Dad were overcome with grief from Ava's death, and I needed to stay home to take care of them, commuting between the company and my parents' house daily. The house Ava and I shared, I locked it up and listed it with a realtor. There was actually nothing to avoid. She had cleaned the house spotlessly, leaving nothing of hers behind. Oh, she left a stupid bear. With a note saying something like, for Chloe. I remembered she once said I looked like that bear. I thought, somewhat cynically, was she trying to give me to Chloe? With an unidentifiable surge of anger, I carelessly tossed it into the yard. One day, Mom suddenly said, let's go see the place where Ava died. Mentioning Ava, her eyes reddened again. I keep dreaming of that sea. Maybe Ava wants to see me. After Mom spoke, both she and Dad looked at me. I put some food on Mom's plate. I can have the driver take you. Mom looked at me. Aren't you going to see Ava? It's just a stretch of sea. Besides, I've always had a fear of the ocean. Dad nodded. Liam hasn't even dared to go to the aquarium since he was little. Forget it, we'll go. The TV showed news about stunning northern lights in Canada, the night sky like a canvas injected with shifting fluorescent green paint. I averted my gaze, gathered the dishes into the sink, and turned on the faucet. Mom came back from the seaside with a shell she found, placing it on her nightstand. Dad said she was calling Ava's name when a wave washed the shell to her feet. They took it as a gift from Ava. Other than that, life went on as usual. Chloe coughed during a meeting. I looked up at her. Out. Chloe froze. Everyone in the meeting looked at me, surprised. She hastily apologized, covered her mouth, and hurried out of the conference room. I withdrew my gaze and motioned for the employee at the podium to continue the presentation. Chloe was hiding in the break room, wiping away tears. I walked over silently, poured her a cup of coffee. Control your emotions at work. Chloe took the cup, speaking somewhat wretchedly, thank you, boss. I was about to leave with my own coffee when I suddenly heard her say, I wasn't crying because of the meeting. Her voice was hoarse. I just remembered the last time I spoke with Ava. She bought me medicine, told me taking it would help my cough get better faster. She must have been in a lot of pain then too. Boss, do you know? After the car accident, Ava watched you help me out of the car. Her expression was so sad, the kind of sadness only girls understand. I guessed she must have misunderstood. She always thought you wanted to save me first when the accident happened. I froze for a moment. Back then, Ava's legs were pinned under the steering wheel by the crumpled front end. Her face was completely white. Chloe was groaning in pain in the back seat. I got out and helped her out first. She was terrified, unconsciously clutching my clothes. I comforted her briefly, and she seemed to snap out of it and let go. I asked a bystander to call 911 and an ambulance for us. Then I went to check on Ava. She was trapped tightly. I tried to recline the driver's seat to make space for her to pull her legs out, but the seat adjustment button was broken. I could only start clearing the glass fragments from her wound while waiting for rescue. She was usually so afraid of pain, but at that moment, she didn't make a sound. She just kept staring at my fractured arm, saying she was fine, really fine. But later, when she saw Ethan at the hospital, she cried, red-eyed, saying it hurt. I understood then. In her heart, I was probably less trustworthy than Ethan. Chloe said softly, "But I knew you helped me out first because you wanted to recline the seat to make space for her, right?" I didn't answer. That night, I saw a notification on my phone. How painful is it to die by jumping into the sea? Someone in the comments shared their personal experience. You regret it halfway, you struggle, but there's no turning back. It's desperate, that feeling of wanting to breathe but inhaling seawater, the burning pain in your respiratory tract. I didn't finish reading. After that day, I started suffering from insomnia, night after night. When I couldn't sleep, I cooked, cleaned, ironed every piece of clothing flat. Mom woke up early to find a table full of dishes, surprised. She took a bite, her eyes slightly red. "It tastes like Ava made it." I picked up a piece of braised pork and put it in my mouth. The familiar taste filled my senses, but a wave of grief washed over my heart, as if triggering a deeply buried memory. Before this, I had never cooked. Why could I make food that tasted so similar to hers? I suddenly realized that everything I was doing were things Ava used to do. Every single one of these was her habit when she couldn't sleep. A few days later, the realtor told me a client was interested in the house and asked when I could sign the contract. I went back to the old house. Without her things, the interior felt empty. The childish, exaggerated murals were gone, the stuffed animals and pillows on the sofa were gone, the plants she kept on the balcony were moved away. Including that wedding photo we took while traveling. Only the cold, minimalist furniture remained. I stood frozen, suddenly desperate to find any trace of her life there. But there wasn't a single one. Not giving up, I searched everywhere, but found nothing. What about the bear? I rushed frantically to the corner of the yard, but the bear was long gone too. Probably taken away by sanitation workers as trash. The last thing she left for me, I had lost it too. I went home, found all the clothes she had bought me in the past, spread them out on the bed, big and small, and then lay down on them. I didn't deliberately try to sleep, but quickly drifted off. I faintly felt a soft breath near my ear, faint like a kitten's. This sleep was unprecedentedly long. The door opened, footsteps approached. I woke with a start, strode out of the room, down the stairs. The moment I saw the person, my heart stopped. It was just the realtor. He had clients with him. Seeing me, he was surprised, then smiled. "Mr. Hayes, you're here too. Perfect, you can meet each other." I covered my eyes, took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, I can't sell the house." I went to find Ethan. Asked him for Ava's last address. He stared at me for a moment, then smiled. "I've already bought that apartment. Don't even think about it." I choked. He stood up, walked over to me. "I know you want to find her belongings, want to know how she spent her last days. You won't get that chance." I was silent for a while, then looked up at him. "Actually, I'm very jealous of you. Jealous that you always knew more about her than I did. Jealous that when she was hurt or in trouble, you were the first person she thought of, not me. Even though before you showed up, I was the only one she relied on." Ethan slowly broke into a smile. "Liam, that's because you didn't deserve it." I returned to the house again. But since that day, I could no longer feel her presence. I started remembering many things. My mother, dissatisfied with Chloe and afraid I'd get involved with girls like her again, pushed hard for Ava and me to be together. That day, I had a few drinks with friends, came home, and she suddenly entered my place. Like a drenched rabbit, red-eyed, clearly clueless, yet daring to unbutton my shirt. In that moment, I thought. See, Mom and Dad wanted her to be with me, and she actually came. That night, she must have been terrified, trembling constantly, and later, crying non-stop. Later, I proposed to her. Her expression was complex, shock, hesitation, suspicion. But no joy. So I assumed she didn't want to marry me. Which is why I said those words that, every time I recall them, fill me with a pain that makes my whole body ache. I never thought it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The next day, I went to the study, intending to sort out some important documents, but saw a thick sketchbook in the corner of the shelf. I opened it. Before Ava came, my childhood was actually very lonely. Most of the time, I just lay around drawing. After she arrived, the sketchbook became my diary. Everything recorded was related to her. In college, I found this sketchbook again and casually added a couple more notes. I closed the sketchbook, about to put it back, when I suddenly noticed fresh handwriting on the back cover. I'm sorry. It was Ava's handwriting. My hand suddenly trembled. She saw it? Did she kill herself because she saw this diary? I was raised to be a person who met expectations. So even though I felt my family's care and love were stolen by the adopted girl, even though I disliked her, didn't want her around, I still had to play the part of the good older brother, taking care of her, protecting her. My parents didn't allow me to have a temper or selfish thoughts. When I was little, just breaking a toy would earn me disappointed looks from them. Later, I met Chloe. I found common ground with her. She had a mother who favored sons, a brother with leukemia, no money for treatment. So she willingly let herself be kept by a married man, asking him for money to give to her mother for her brother's treatment. Once, I saw her after she finished a call with her family. The moment she hung up, her face showed disgust, and she whispered it would be better if he just died. She turned and saw me, shocked and unable to explain. Later, her brother did die. She was freed, and broke up with that man. But rumors started flying at school. Photos of her entering and leaving hotels with that much older man spread everywhere. She explained he was an uncle. No one believed her. A girl with her reputation, any proximity to a man sparked gossip. This time I was the male lead in the gossip. The moment my mother angrily accused me, I suddenly felt very tired. So very tired. She said she'd rather I be with Ava. I laughed. If you like her so much, you marry her. My mother slapped me. Ava followed behind me, wanting to speak but not daring to. Mom and Dad live so far away, how would they know about Chloe and me? I looked down at her coldly. Is using my parents to pressure me the only thing you know how to do? Ava frantically explained it wasn't her. And it really wasn't. Just a professor at the university who knew my mom. But I didn't apologize to Ava. At that time, I really didn't want to see her. Sometime later, a man appeared by her side, Ethan from the medical school. I'd never seen her so interested in another guy. Eating with him in the cafeteria every noon, happily carrying a large bag of snacks to meet him, even asking me while browsing shopping sites, "What brand of razor do you guys usually use?" I glanced at her, asked why she was asking. She stammered it was for a roommate. But in reality, I saw her give the razor, along with a bag of fruit, to Ethan, even rubbing her own chin at him, telling him to look sharper. In that moment, the shock and anger surprised even me. Perhaps my rejection of her during those days, the reluctance in taking care of her against my will, had already been worn away by her, bit by bit. From the moment she cried and hugged me over that dead cat, I realized I wasn't actually that annoyed by her. She was the only place I could breathe in this house. But she didn't know my stubborn pride, didn't know how contrary a childish little boy could be. Until the day she died, she thought I hated her. Until the day she died, she thought I loved Chloe. What was she feeling when she wrote those 2 words? All the pain I had deliberately hidden, all the details of how I hurt and failed her that I had consciously avoided, her solitary endurance of the agony of cancer and the fear of impending death, it all flooded into me overwhelmingly. I knelt on the floor, clutching the diary, curling up and sobbing like a child. I finally went to that sea. I hadn't dared to come before. I was afraid of remembering how she looked when she died. I stood on the shore. The salty sea wind blew across my face. The rhythmically swelling blue waves made me feel nauseous and dizzy. Ever since I was swept away by a wave at age 6 and nearly drowned, I'd suffered from seasickness. And Ava died in the sea. The waves licked at my feet, as if guiding me towards a deeper destination. 1 step. 2 steps. The last thing she saw before she died was the firework photo I posted. I just thought those brilliant fireworks were similar to the northern lights she wanted to see. But I didn't expect Chloe to like my post. After that, in her mind, it became about romance between Chloe and me. As the sea level drew closer, a phone call startled me. When I came back to my senses, the water was already up to my waist. I picked up my phone. It was Mom. I answered, covering the microphone to block the sound of wind and waves. "What's wrong?" Mom's voice sounded tired. The shell suddenly fell off the nightstand while I was sleeping, woke me up. Suddenly felt like calling you. When will you be home? What do you want for dinner? The shell? I paused. Yes, she still had her beloved family that I needed to take care of. What's that noise on your end? Are you at the beach? Mom asked, puzzled. No, my voice was hoarse. I'm coming back right away. A few days later, I received a call. The voice on the other end was hesitant. Bro, it's me. There's something I probably need to tell you. That time at the pub, we might have run into Sis. Ava. She was so thin then, I didn't dare recognize her. We were all drunk, started talking about you. That idiot spilled the beans about what you said drunk in London. Said you were tired of being with Sis, fed up, stuff like that. Sis seemed really upset after hearing it, left quickly. Later, when I heard about Sis's death, I felt terrible. After thinking it over and over, I decided to tell you what happened that day. After hanging up, I lowered my eyes. So that was why she decided to leave. She would never know that I came back from London intending to propose to her properly. I was indeed fed up. I was fed up with always standing behind them, eating, feeling jealous, over nothing, fed up with our superficial harmony, fed up with us draining each other. I wanted to ask her if she would marry me, if she would go to London with me for the wedding. But she had moved everything out and then broke up with me. I always thought she liked Ethan. Their friendship lasted 10 years. If it weren't for her relationship with me, if not for my parents, they probably would have gotten together long ago. So the moment she broke up with me, I naturally assumed she left me to be with Ethan. Only now did I understand how much disappointment she had accumulated towards me. That time Chloe had a cold, I gave her my jacket. I wasn't blind to the dimness in Ava's eyes, but I deliberately ignored it. Because the night before, I had run into her and Ethan at the sports field. Ethan made a shot, and she cheered excitedly. In that moment, I was jealous. My hand, due to nerve damage, could no longer play basketball, yet she went to watch someone else play. When her legs gave out and she leaned on my arm, I even mocked her. To get her way, she often faked illness or discomfort when she was little. But I should have known. Ever since she tricked me with the suicide threat, she never dared to joke about her health again. Even when she was genuinely sick, she didn't dare tell me. While I was taking care of Chloe, she was hiding somewhere alone, enduring the pain of cancer. Ethan was right. I truly didn't deserve her. I don't even have the right to die with her. She must have hated me. That's why in the final letters she left, she thought of everyone, except not a single word about me.